All right, we're back. We're live. This is the Ascend Business Show. And today we're going to continue our series on winning the fourth quarter. Today we talk about how to execute the right sales process to get the results that you want. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
Power to pay. Power to pay.
All right, welcome to the show. I'm flying solo today. Bill, who you usually see with me, he's getting us ready for our executive briefing today. And if you haven't registered for that yet, it's coming up here at 1 o'clock Eastern. You can do that at the bottom there. It's eb.ascendadvisors.com. And these are something that we do as a thought leadership piece. We do these once a month. They're free. They're about 35 minutes or so. So nice and short, but super jam-packed with content. And we're going to talk to you today. If you join us, there's going to be some really awesome other business leaders on this that are attending. And we're going to talk today about how to win the fourth quarter with the use of a social selling strategy process and the case for, using some AI automation with that. So we're going to talk about some trends, what we're seeing, and some things that are really affecting businesses today. So join us if you can, 1 o'clock Eastern. That's where you register at the link below. And hope to see you there. So we're going to continue our series today, and we're talking about how to win the fourth quarter. We technically have precisely now 79 days left of 2021. 79. So we have a lot to do. Unless you're done with this year and you're already ready for next year, that's great. But for the rest of us that still want to get some things done and see some wins and make some more sales for our business, we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to do in the next 79 days. So we're going to talk today about your sales process. Now, we're going to focus on how to really aim this towards a digital sales process, leveraging your social media, and how to kind of wrap your arms around how do you do this? Because the old way that we're all familiar with, and still is practiced today, and is still used, and there's some merit still to it, but it's drifting. The iceberg is melting. You got to jump ship. The millennials and the Gen Zs are way over on the social media side now. It is the number one trending use for buying decisions today. Number one is how do you put all this together? If you're like anyone that I've talked to, and I talk to a lot of you every week, you're busy. You have a lot going on. You're juggling about 25 different things. And the last thing that you have time to focus on and wrap your arms around is your sales process. It's okay, but we got to fix this because we need some better systems and structure in the business. And the good news that I have to share with you today is that it's not going to take you that long every day to do this. If you have this laid out and organized, which is step one, we'll get into that. Once you have that foundation set up that you can follow the system, you can do this like an hour a day, 2 hours a day tops. That's it, if that. And you're good. You will have more consistency, more timeliness, more conversions with your sales just because you're on top of it, right? just like anything else. Like if you're following a budget, right, and you're checking your bank account, if you haven't checked it in the last 30 days versus checking it like yesterday and last week or even a few days ago, and you're on top of where you spend, it's the same thing, right? Where you focus is where you measure and where you get results. So if I just started the first form last 8-week challenge for the year, and I track everything of what I eat every day in this app, and it keeps me accountable and it keeps me focused on what I'm trying to do. And then I have accountability, from my trainer on top of that. So that's a piece here we're going to get to. So you need some accountability today. Even though it's not always fun, but if you want to win, you want to be a high performer, and you want to have a high performing, fast moving company, we need some accountability around the systems that we have, right? So we're going to talk today about how to execute the right sales process for results. And this is huge, because if you have the right brand positioning, the right messaging, we've been talking a lot about that on this show. If you have the right focus, if you know exactly who your audience is, and you know exactly who your prospect list looks like, that's been really tightened up, and you're super focused on where you're supposed to, meet and greet and connect and earn the right to have some meetings. If you fail here, none of that matters, because this is the execution part. You can have all the theory in the world, all the best strategy, but if you don't execute daily, it doesn't matter. And this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is where fast companies today that are moving at an exponential rate, they are scaling, they're moving quick. They have this like tremendous sense of urgency around them. This is where, if you focus on this and do this right with your team, yourself, you will have measured exponential momentum in your growth. So how do we get around this? Like where do we start? What do you do? Well, the first thing is, I want to know, what do you use right now for a sales process? Do you have a CRM? Do you use like a HubSpot or a Salesforce or a Pipedrive, or do you use our CRM? Are you a client of ours? Do you use our own CRM, Ascend CRM? Or do you use a piece of paper? Do you have a big whiteboard in your office? What do you use to track your sales process? What is your sales process? Do you have one? Let's start with that, right? So if you haven't gotten if you haven't revisited your sales process in the last week, month, quarter, we got a problem. It's okay. That's why we're talking today. But we gotta get that tight. What is it? And the most basic sales process that any company can have, any business, even super small, even an entrepreneur, it's real simple, right? It's your leads that come in, or that you uncover, your leads that turn into qualified leads or hot leads that are interested to work with you or want to buy from you, that want to then have if you have a sales meeting, if you need a meeting to do a discovery and formulate a proposal or a scope of work with them, you have that meeting, or 2 or 3, depending on how complicated that engagement is, right? And then you have your close. You close the deal, you send the invoice, you sign the contract, and then you're done. That's what we're talking about today. That's the sales process, right? But what does that mean for digital? Like, we know, like, in general, but how do you apply that to digital and social selling, which is a lot of the focus we've been talking about? So I'm going to show you guys something we hit on a little bit last week. First of all, this is really, a reminder of a funnel that you want to have in your business. No matter what you're selling or marketing, you have to have some kind of calculated, measured funnel of how your system or how your mousetrap works. This is an example, right, of a sales funnel for digital. You have 1,000 prospects. You got, let's say we're using LinkedIn, for example, or Facebook or Instagram, and you're making new friendships, new connections, new followers. You get a batch of new, followers, friends, connections in a monthly window or a quarterly window, some of those, a chunk of those turn into conversations. They want to talk to you. Some of those turn into really interested buyers that want to know more about how to work with you. And then those turn into clients. So make sure you have this dialed in. You can screenshot this if you want. But what does your funnel look like today? Do you know the numbers that are in each step here that of what's actually happening in your business versus reality? What you want versus reality. Do you know your numbers here? Get clear on this, and that we're going to build off that. The second thing, and this is a social selling sales process here that we teach at Ascend with clients, and it's real simple. This is a dashboard from our CRM that we help clients build for themselves, but it's real simple. You want to earn the right to meet, earn the right to connect, and then earn the right to meet. And so here's an example of a sales process for social selling where, we first connect, we make a connection, new relationship, and then the next step is to engage. We got to give. We got to give before we get. We got to give before we get in social selling, right? That's the rule. That's what you have to do this. So we got to go on people's profiles that we're connected to. Hopefully they're the people we want to connect to. It's not accidental. It's intentional, right? But we're engaging on someone's profile, engaging in their content, creating conversation. People love this, right? People love getting notifications on their phone that, oh, someone commented on my post. Oh, someone commented on my article or on my live or on something that I shared. People like that, right? We check our phones all the time for that stuff. Come on, be honest. Right? But that's engagement. We want to engage on our ideal prospects profiles and let them know that, hey, we're here. I'm not just a distant new friend of yours. I'm actually interested in what you have to say. And on top of that, I might even add some comments to what you are saying. So this is what we're talking about, guys, with engaging. This is an example of someone that connected with me a couple months ago. And this is a comment that I made on their post. And guess what? My name, my comment was at the top of this person's post. This is strategic, folks. This is strategic. I'm giving great feedback that is genuine and great commentary, but I'm also positioning my brand and my thought leadership in this person's content. I want them to remember this. This is with them forever. This is a secret strategy for engagement. You want to have your footprint, so to speak, on your audience's content because it's clues, it's trails to remember that we were engaged, we were talking at one point. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're putting out content, right? Content marketing is essential today. It is not an option. It's not a nice thing. It's essential for having your thought leadership and your brand, your ideas, your solutions around problems that your buyers care about. Your content is must. And so at least a couple times a week, we got to be putting out content to show what we're up to, how we're engaging with our market, some ideas that we have, some questions that we have that we want some feedback on from our buyers. So we need to put out content. And so the cycle, right, is if you put out your own content that's related to your audience, not random content, but calculated strategic content, meaning you're talking about the buyer's problems, the buyer's, industry, some methods of solutions they've tried that they've tried and why they didn't work, or the pros and cons to different solutions or methods that your buyer is using that's relative to your product or service, right? Useful content that they would care about, that they would read and then stop the thumb scroll. We want to post that content. And what happens then, right, is we're doing this circle, we're doing this cycle, we're connecting, we're building engagement, we're engaging on our connections, but we're also edifying our new audience that we're growing intentionally with content that we know they're going to want to see. We know that it's going to help them. We know that, or at least we think it's going to help them. Maybe you don't know yet. but you're testing your content with your audience to see if it even gets response. And that's another thing you want to do with this is we need to test the strength of your what we call issue fluency with what you know about your buyer's market. Do you really have a strong command of their business, their industry, things that they're focused on right now in the fourth quarter, things that they're thinking about that they're trying to implement and focus on? So if like we said last show, why should I meet with you? If you don't know the answer to that question for your buyer when they ask you that, you got to think that through, right? Because I know you have the answers. I know you have a rallying cry from what you're seeing in the market for how you can help and what your buyers should do to help themselves, right? But we got to voice that. And we got to put that into video content, written content, shared article. We got to put content out so that our buyers can see that and say, oh, wow, James is really on point. James has actually a really strong sense of where we're at. And it seems to know a lot about, our business or at least our industry. And I'm going to tune in more to the content he pushes out. So that's what we want to have happen, right? We're building a community. This is no different in some respects to how we used to do it in the old networking days. But this is more intentional. This is strategic. You're building an audience with the exact audience you want to build with the tools that are out there today. You can do that. It's not random. And you're giving great content to your audience that they want to have. That's thought leadership. Okay. So as you're doing that, you're engaging with their profile. Then we got to move to the next step. We got to move to DMs and emails and maybe even phone call if appropriate then, to follow up. But first, we're still creating the conversation. We're not pitching, guys. We're not pitching. We don't pitch. We all know where that gets you online and social. It doesn't work. There's probably 9.5 bad pitches for every 0.5 good one. And it's rare that I see one. I much prefer responding to someone that is focused on me and helping me with something that I might care about or an idea or an invitation or a question that shows that they're pretty in tune with who I am. So versus a pitch. So we need to do some DMing. We need to engage. We need to ask conversations. We want to pose a question, right? We talked about that yesterday in the 4-step process for how to have a DM that's effective, right? You want to have, I'm going to pull this up here in a second. You want to follow this process where did I get rid of that? I did. But you want to pose a problem or a question or an insight to your buyer in your DM and ask a question. Don't pitch, ask a question. How are you dealing with this today? This is what we're seeing in your space. And I know it's posing these kinds of challenges on companies. Here's how we're addressing it. What do you think? People love to share their opinions on stuff, especially when it's stuff they know about. So especially if it's their own business, you would think that they'd probably have an opinion of their own business or issue on their business. Ask them about it. Ask a question about it. How are you feeling about your marketing? How are you feeling about the way you are positioning your brand out there online? What do you think is the reason why customers aren't landing and interacting with your website? I'm just giving you different questions and examples. They're thoughtful questions that immediately pose a problem and challenge they might be facing, and you're going to get great feedback on what their thoughts are, and that can lead to a really productive conversation for them that you created by an invitation to have a nice discussion, not pitch, right? See the difference? So that's what we're talking about here. And that is the essential piece to having your active DM conversations dialed in. But from a sales process standpoint, you got to document this stuff, right? So have your sales board documented so you're tracking these conversations. Because when you track them and you focus them, then you can move them faster. And if you know there's some really good hot conversations happening, what's the right step next is ask for that meeting. Like, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed this conversation. I think there's some things to go into deeper here. Would you mind if we talk for, set the time to talk for 20, 30 minutes, and I have some things I want to share with you that I'm thinking about based on what you're saying here. What do you say? Sweet. Awesome. Now you got a Zoom meeting. Now you got a phone call meeting set up, and now you have moved your leads or your relationships to the next level. And then you have your meeting set for those. So this is a really nice, sweet and short front end digital social selling process that you can track in a CRM, on a whiteboard, on something that you can then measure, and you can have a really, really tight organization around, so that if it's a Monday and you focus on this for an hour a day and you keep adding to this and you keep track of your conversations in a very systematic way here, now you have a sales process that's dialed in, you know where things are going, and you can measure it and you can expect to see results. Why? Because you're on top of it. You're on top of it. So if you want to win the fourth quarter, guys, make sure your sales process is working, right? Make sure your sales process is working. And if you don't have one, I just showed you one, use that one. Let me know. Let me know if you have a sales process, what you're using for digital social selling. I'd love to hear your approach, your ideas. I invite you to share, back with me and our team what we're sharing out to you. We are learners every day, and we say that with CEOs all the time. The culture of successful companies today, from the CEO level down, if you're not inspiring learning and trying new things in your entire company as a way of, this is how we're going to get better faster. We encourage you to learn and try new things, as well as follow the standard process that we've decided we need to execute. Yes, but within that, share with us your learnings. Share with us how you've attempted to do these things and what you're seeing from it. We want that feedback. If you're familiar with growth hacking is an actual marketing term. If you haven't, got a great article that I shared on LinkedIn this week about that. Not mine. I shared it from somewhere else. But growth hacking is really just bite-sized little test experiments in your business on, I have a hypothesis around something that I think is going to work, and I assume it works, but I'm not really sure. So I'm going to test it. It's a scientific experiment. I'm going to test it. And my success factor, if my ideal outcome is maybe, so if we're doing, like, let's do lead gen, for example, right? We're following the sales process. You could do a hypothesis out of today. I'm going to follow the sales process James just showed me, and I'm going to apply that to my social selling. I'm going to use it on my Instagram. I'm going to use it on my LinkedIn or Facebook or all of them, right? I'm going to use that process he just laid out. And my hypothesis is, if I apply an hour a day to putting my contacts, my names in that system, and I move them with intention and focus around thought leadership type messaging that we've been talking about, my assumption is I can have 5 new meetings set by the end of the week. If the variables are, if I put in an hour a day, if I track everything on that sales process board, and I'm putting out great messaging, I believe I can move names from left to right that result in 5 meetings. That's a growth hack experiment. Try it out. See what happens. Test it. Maybe you might end up with 15 meetings. You might end up with 20. You might end up with 2. But you don't know. And that's the point, is if you want to have a fast-growing business, you have to test and you have to learn your own stuff. You can't guess. And once you prove that the system works for you, the way you did it, the recipe, then you can repeat it, right? And guess what? That recipe is scalable. You could teach that to your other peers, to your other teammates. They can do it then too. And so that's why this is so important, guys. A sales process sounds really lame and boring, and it does, but it's essential for what we're talking about in the mix of winning the fourth quarter. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on this. And while I'm pulling that up, I'm just going to put this at the bottom again. But if you want to hear some really cool trends and insights today and you haven't registered yet, I'm going to give you this one more time, and then I'm going to give you a goodie today, a free download of some really good content that you're going to love. But eb.ascendadvisors.com. We're doing a special 40-minute briefing today. At that link, if you want to join us, it's free. It's interactive, and it's usually a smaller group that's on that. So it's a lot of fun. It's high value, and we're just sharing some really good stuff around things that can give you things to think about and take action on in your business. But register there today. We do this once a month, and we hope to see you there. So one more thing that we have, if you're in the area tomorrow, we're in New Jersey broadcasting here. We do live training workshops too. Now that things are a little bit more under control with the pandemic, and we can have some live interactions again in office. We have a beautiful headquarters here in Parsippany, and this is our headquarters, and it's a beautiful place to gather, connect, collaborate, and do training. So we have a training here in New Jersey this Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. And we're going to talk about building your list. We're going to actually look at your list with you. You can bring your materials. We're going to help you focus on who and where you should be selling this quarter. We're going to help you focus on redrafting or optimizing your sales messaging, so you're saying the right things to start the right conversations. And we're also going to help you with a plan of action for winning your business this quarter. So if you can, you're local, come on and register for that. That is at training.ascendadvisors.com, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We do those once a month too, and we're excited to be back doing that, because I used to train all the time in live in 2019 before the COVID hit, and then I had to put that on hold. So we're back to live events again, and this is something really fun in our new Ascend headquarters. So come on out if you can join us for that. Last thing I'm going to share with you guys for today, some goodies, some good stuff, is if you've been following us, if you've been tuning in and you haven't gotten this yet, this is our 21 ways to accelerate your pipeline. This is an exercise that takes about 45 minutes. You do it at your own pace, do it in your own time. But what you want to do is text the word ascend to this number, 973-310-2803. That's actually our headquarter number. You can text that number though, and it's going to send you a PDF download. It looks like this. And what happens is you'll open it up, and it takes you through a 45-minute exercise of where you've had conversations this year, where you've had stalled leads. You might have had leads at the deal table that said no, that you forgot about, that you haven't followed up with again in the last 6 to 9 months. But this guide takes you through all the places where you've had relationships or conversations this year, and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about all those people. I'm telling you right now, if you don't get at least 50 new leads from this, or I should say leads you forgot about from this exercise, call me and call me out. When I usually do this, we do this about every week. We're drumming up, if we do it every week, we're drumming up probably 20 to 30 people that we forgot about from sometime in the past. We just didn't, we didn't have our system to follow up. So it's a really good way to take these leads that you remember, put them into your sales dashboard process that we did today, and start them on the left. Rewarm them up. See how they're doing. I'm sure your life and business has changed since the beginning of this year. I'm sure where you're at today is not something you could have projected or foreseen in January. Their life is probably the same. So why not connect before the end of the year? You have 79 days left to do it. Connect with your relationships, guys, and see how they're doing. See if there's a way to add value. See if there's a way, share with them some things you're up to. Connect with your relationships. Don't go into 2022 with your relationships that you value without them hearing from you. Make that an effort and put them in your sales process. Track it. It'll help you so much. So I hope you guys enjoyed our broadcast today. We're going to get off here in just a second. But if you like this, you want to learn more Go to ascendadvisors.com. Just give you a way to interact with us there. Some free content that we give. We do this show 2 to 3 times a week, and we have our podcast as well that comes out every Monday. And we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, so you can find us at Ascend Podcast Business Podcast there. But we come to you every day to help give you value for what you need to do better at your digital sales and marketing, so you can become unstoppable in your business and start your ascent today. Take that next step to ascend to the next level and be better every day. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.